Hey everyone, we are continuing our discussion on events and trapping for different kinds of events in Visual Basic and writing code in response to those events. And thus far we've had a lot of experience with the click event when you click on an ActiveX control. In our previous exercise we learned how to check when a cell is modified and write code in response to that, or whenever a workbook is opened or a sheet is activated. And there are a couple of other events that can be really useful. One is the OnKey event. And the OnKey event allows you to associate your code, a macro for example, a sub, with a key. And a good example of that would be, the one that I tend to use quite a bit is the F1, F2, F3, your function keys. And so what we have here is, we'll look at our code for a second. In this module, we have these, have two little subs here. I basically recorded a macro and then made some modifications. So what happens is that there's a make chart macro that whatever set of columns you have selected, it creates a chart, like a column chart, a bar chart, if you will. And then there's a delete charts macro that's just one I wrote from scratch. It basically deletes whatever charts you have on the sheet. And so let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to select these columns right here, and I'm going to do make chart, and it makes a chart. And if I select some columns over here and then run the make chart macro, it creates another chart. And if I run the delete charts macro, it just gets rid of whatever charts I have. And so what we're going to do is we want to make it so that after selecting some columns, instead of going up here and doing this business, we want it so we can just click on the F1 key and it runs that sub. And if we click on the F2 key, it will delete whatever charts we've created. And so the way you do that is you use the OnKey event. And for this to work, you have to, in order to start trapping on a key press so that you can link the code to it, you have to execute some code, and typically the best way to do that is when the workbook opens. And so I'm going to go up here in the Project Explorer window to the workbook object, double click on that, and then in the left I'm going to select workbook, and the default event for a workbook is the open event. So this is exactly what we want. And to get to the OnKey event, our OnKey object, we say application.onKey, it's a method actually, space, and then the first argument is which key you want. And each key has a code, and they generally look like this. And so that's how you designate the F1 key. You put it in double quotes, and then you also put it in curly braces, and you type F1. That works for F1 through F12. If you want to determine what the key codes are, let me see if I can bring that up here. If you go to this is the Excel VBA primer on the worksheet events. If you go down to the OnKey method, there is, let's see, workbook open, double it. Here we go. Here's the link I'm looking for. There's a in the Microsoft Office help web page, it gives you a list of the different key codes. So here they are: delete, clear, backspace, enter. Now most of those you probably wouldn't want to intercept, but you could theoretically. And here's the ones that I use the most: F1 through F15. I said 12, they're actually 15 function keys. And you can even put qualifiers on there: Shift, Control, Alt. If you want to, in other words, instead of doing F1, if you do plus F1, then it has to be shift F1. And if you do caret F1, then it has to be caret, or I guess you could do plus caret and do control shift and those kinds of things. But we're just going to use just the plain old F1 key. And then the second argument is the name of the procedure you're going to call. And we want to call the make chart. So you put the name of the procedure, case sensitive, in double quotes there. Now, so this, your procedure that you're going to call has to be in a module. That's a very important thing. And it can't take any arguments. It has to just operate without any arguments, and which this one does, so it's no problem. But that has to be the case for this to work. And I'm going to copy that and then just paste it right here. And I'm going to say F2 and delete charts. So that will link it to the delete charts, I guess it is. So let me make sure I have that spelled correctly. And then finally, I'm just going to throw up a message box here. Let's see, OX, use the F1 key to chart selected columns. Use the F2 key to delete all charts. So we're just going to throw up a little message when the window is, when the workbook is first open. It's going to be VB information, and we'll call it attention, and that should do it. So I am going to save my changes, and for this to work we need to actually exit the workbook, and then I'm going to come over here and reopen it, and you'll notice when it opens it, here's our message box. Use the F1 key to chart selected columns. Use the F2 key to delete all charts. So remember, we wrote some code that was associated with the open event for the workbook, and that is now executed. So in addition to throwing up this message, it executed these two lines of code that linked these subs to those two keys. So if this worked correctly, should be able to select those cells. Now I'm going to press the F1 key, and look at that. It immediately plots those charts. I can do this as many times as I want, and if I press the F2 key, the charts go away. So make a chart, and it puts it in the same place every time, it looks like, and then make a chart and delete charts. So again, F1 key to make a chart, F2 key to delete the charts. It's simple as that. So if you have some subs that you want to be able to run very frequently, and just by clicking a function key, that's how you do it. Now I want to show you one other really handy event, and that is the OnTime event. You can also write code that is executed automatically based on a timing interval. And you can do some really cool things with animation and moving things around, or things that are based on timing intervals. But to make this work, I want to go to the code, and what we're going to do is I'm going to double click on the code for sheet 1, or excuse me, sheet 2. This workbook has three different sheets: sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. Sheets 2 and 3 are empty, and I'm going to go into the code for sheet 2, and I'm going to I'm going to trap on the worksheet activate event. So I select the worksheet in the left, and over here I select activate. I'll delete that one, I don't need that. So now we're going to write some code that is executed when the worksheet is activated. And we're going to type, let me expand the window here so you can see this. application.onTime. And now, so this on time means we're going to set up a call to a sub at a certain period of time. And so you have to give it an actual time, and there's an actual time object in Visual Basic, and there's a way to set that up. But there's a little trick you can do. You can say now plus. Now is an object in Visual Basic that returns the current time. So we want to give it a time, we want to say now plus 5 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever your interval is. So how do you designate the correct number of seconds in the right format? Well, the easiest way to do that is use the time value function, and you pass to the time value a hour, minute, second string. So I'm going to do this just like this. And so what that says is 00:00:03 means 3 seconds, and that converts. It takes that string and then converts it to an actual 3-second time value. And yeah, there's another way to set that up, but this is the easiest way. And so now that basically says in now plus 3 seconds we want this sub to be executed. What sub is that? Well, that's the second argument. Again, you give it the name of the sub, and I'm gonna reference a sub called my_message, which we have not created yet, but we'll go and create that now. And so once again, the sub that you call in response to this event has to be in a module. So I'm going to go over to the module. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to type sub my message, and then I'm going to just do a simple message box. Time is up, go back to sheet 1, and just kind of a dummy message to test and see if this works. But of course, you know, this could be whatever you want. In fact, sometimes what's fun to do is execute some code and then initiate another. At the end of this sub, you can initiate another call to the on-time event to start it again. So you can, if you do that, you can put these into a loop effectively and have something operate over and over again. In other words, if the sub that's called on the on-time event initiates another call to the on-time event, this can go on, you know, indefinitely or until some condition is met. And so it's a really powerful utility. I've seen it used in a lot of different ways. So let's just try this. Let's see if this works. I'm going to go to sheet 2 and 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. There it is. Time's up. Go back to sheet 1. Go back here, and we can do this again. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Boom. And there you go. Works like a charm. So there are two more very handy ways to trap on events: the OnKey and the OnTime event.